Move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the following motion that, aware that the budget policy statement was tabled in the Senate on the 15th of February 2024 for consideration pursuant to provisions of the Public Finance Management Act, noting that the 14 days timeline for consideration of the BPS budget policy statement lapses on Thursday, the 29th of February 2024. Concerned that the magnitude of the work involved in the consideration of the budget policy statement is immense, as it involves consideration by all standing committees, stakeholder engagement, reporting by the standing committees to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, and consideration and approval of the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget by the Senate. Now, therefore, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 186 of the Senate, Standing Orders, the Senate resolves to extend the time for the consideration of 2024 budget policy statement by a further 7 days to enable the Senate make a determination by 7th of March 2024. Mr. Speaker, I am a bit embarrassed. I'm embarrassed, Mr. Speaker, because if there is work that we have neglected as a Senate, if you read all the BPS reports from the time that I joined Senate, we have been saying each year that we need to extend the timeline for consideration of BPS by a further 7 days to be 21. It's in every report, 2013, 14, 15. I'm sure even in 2024 it will be there. Yet, unfortunately, we never do that until the next cycle of budget policy statement. So I'd wish to give notice that members who serve in Budget and Finance Committee kindly lead the House in making that amendment so that we stop this last-minute rush and hurriedly trying to consider a very important policy document that involves the overall management of our economy, Mr. Speaker, and having to force committees to do hearings within a very short period. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, this is just a procedural motion to allow us, at least for the very last time, Mr. Speaker, I want to plead that for the very last time, we do this extension. Therefore, it's not something that I am proud to be doing, but we must do because as a House, we must make good judgment on the budget policy statement and react and do the same to it. So since, Mr. Speaker, as members will have chance to speak on the BPS during the substantive report, I wish to say very little of it and request the Leader of Minority, Senator Retired Justice Stewart Madzayo, to second so that we can dispense of this matter. Hopefully, Mr. Speaker, not anticipating debate, but before the rise of the House at 1 o'clock. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I second.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that, aware that the 2024 budget policy statement was tabled in the Senate on 15th of February 2024 for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Public Finance Management Act, noting that the 14 days timeline for consideration of the budget policy statement lapses on Thursday, 29th of February 2024, concerned that the magnitude of the work involved in the consideration of the budget policy statement is immense as it involves consideration by all standing committees, stakeholder engagement, reporting by the standing committees to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, and consideration and approval of the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget by the Senate. Now, therefore, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 186 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate resolves to extend the time for consideration of the 2024 budget policy statement by a further 7 days to enable the Senate make a determination by 7th of March 2024. Honorable members, I'll call upon if there is any members who would like to contribute to this motion.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to support very briefly the extension of this time. Mr. Speaker, contrary to what our leader, the very honorable Senator Cheriot said, in fact, it's not the problem of the the committee of the Finance Committee. Mr. Speaker, the Standing Committee on Energy, for example, we just received the BPS yesterday. And Mr. Speaker, when you look at it during the committee, there are very many issues that when we did the analysis, we were being told by Thursday we should have finished and feed in our report to the main committee of finance. Mr. Speaker, when you look at it, we had many questions for the minister. For example, how are they intending to make Kenya Power Lighting Company Limited more profitable now? Mr. Speaker, it has huge debts, and still they're talking about allocating more funds there. There are so many issues within the petroleum sector as well. And Mr. Speaker, we are being told we are supposed to feed in our report by Thursday. There was no opportunity to bring in the minister so that he can clarify why they are asking the kind of money they are asking for that sector and the justifications and what we needed to do. So, Mr. Speaker, we need actually more time so that we can engage. It's not possible for us to receive the report on a Tuesday morning, and then on a Thursday we are supposed to feed in to the Finance Committee. When do you get the minister, when do you get his officers to come and sit and explain what is in the budget policy paper? They have said, for example, Mr. Speaker, affordable housing is a critical anchor for our administration. And yet, Mr. Speaker, there doesn't seem to be a clear plan in this budget policy paper. No specifics, no explanations on how they are going to fit in all those new units. Because those new units, Mr. Speaker, they will require electricity. Mr. Speaker, right now we have a shortage of electricity meters. We need the minister to come and explain all these things before we feed in to the main Finance Committee report. So, Mr. Speaker, I really, truly support the extension of time so that the committees can have opportunity to engage with their departments and get clarifications on these policy statements and enable us to bring a very good report that we'll debate when it is tabled by the Finance Committee. I beg to support.
Senator Wambua, Enoch.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I support the motion by the majority leader on the extension of time for consideration of the budget policy statement. Mr. Speaker, very briefly, even as we move towards that extension, Mr. Speaker, we must be found that the input of the Senate on the budget policy statement gets to be considered. Mr. Speaker, many times we have engaged in what I would call largely a wild goose chase, where committees of the Senate sit and consider the statement, they have their input, it is forwarded to the relevant authorities, but never considered. I painfully remember, the Speaker, in the last BPS, there was concern across the aisle on an attempt to raid the RMLF and make it part of equitable share to counties. And there was near consensus that you cannot, through a policy statement, raid a fund established by an act of parliament and consider it as part of equitable share to counties. As a Speaker, I think that battle was lost. As a Speaker, in the Roads Committee, and I can see my chair is here, we are supposed to be considering the BPS tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday. The Speaker, the roads department is one of the departments of government that has the highest budgetary allocation, that has so many functions for roads construction, maintenance, and all that. Mr. Speaker, there will be need to have sufficient time to scrutinize the statement, get our input into it, and then I would challenge the majority leader this time round to ensure that if we get this extension and we have the input of senators in all the committees, then we push to ensure that the input of the Senate in the final budget making process is felt and implemented. The Speaker, I support.
Senator Mandago Jackson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also rise to support the extension of time to allow committees to strictly analyze and support the work of the overall Finance Committee. Honorable Speaker, in my Committee of Health, we have a number of issues that we feel as a committee we need to have the discussion first with the Cabinet Secretary for Health, so that, Honorable Speaker, as we finalize, we shall have synchronized, particularly programs that are devolved and are still being run by the ministry. Honorable Speaker, you realize that the ministry has been recruiting health workers that are deployed to go and work in counties. As a committee, Honorable Speaker, we thought we would meet the Cabinet Secretary and agree that those are part of the funds that can go to counties under the conditional allocation so that it becomes seamless in a manner in which we are managing human resource for health. Honorable Speaker, for us to be able to roll out UHC, it is critical that we have enough human resource in our health facilities. And we are looking at the resources in the ministry that we feel as a committee could be deployed to support that function so that the rollout of UHC can be effective and efficient and the citizens of this country can get services as planned under the Kenya Kwanza administration. Honorable Speaker, there are other issues that we would want the ministry to speak to us about. We have a kidney training and treatment center that has been built for the last almost 4 years, Honorable Speaker. The facility is not complete. The funds that were assigned to that facility are already expended, and the project is not complete. We would wish to find out, kidney treatment being one of the critical, and kidney diseases being one of the diseases that have become a burden to our economy and the citizens of this country, Honorable Speaker, we wanted time to discuss with the Cabinet Secretary in some of those programs so that these resources can then be deployed effectively in a manner that is going to be supportive. And finally, Honorable Speaker, there is an increase in the amount of the budget for health significantly. And we would want to make sure that those funds are going towards programs that are going to help in the rollout of UHC. And finally, Honorable Speaker, we have a serious concern in NHIF as it is being transitioned to the Social Health Insurance Fund. Honorable Speaker, you realize that there are so many institutions that owe NHIF in terms of remittances. And we would like to also discuss with the Cabinet Secretary before finally submitting our report to the Finance Committee so that those funds in the transition process cannot be lost and make sure that it feeds into the overall program of the government in terms of the rollout of USC. So, Honorable Speaker, we plead that you give us more time so that we are able to do a serious job. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mandago. Senator Koiti Omtata, you may contribute in under 1 minute for purposes of...
I rise to support the motion by the Majority Leader, Honorable Speaker, because today we were with the JLA Committee, and the issues came up which required us to consult the Registrar of the Judiciary. And then you are told that you have to be reporting tomorrow. How do you do that? Unless it's a mere formality that you are bringing this thing here, but if it is really that we need the input from the Senate, we must be given ample time to be able to consult the various stakeholders so that we come up with a report that is informed, not just to be given a report that is read to you, and then they say you have the Senate participated in it. So I rise to support the Majority Leader's motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Omatinga, in under 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I also like to support. Indeed, we know that we are moving, the Kenya Kwanza government is moving towards the construction of the affordable housing. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the energy sector, looking at the figures that were proposed, one is left with the question how we intend to power and to electrify those units. And therefore, I think that more time is required, Mr. Speaker, to interrogate indeed how we are going to ensure that the power that we are supplying will be enough for the enhanced demand that is going to come up with the new houses. Mr. Speaker, sir, I support.
I call upon the Majority Leader, who is the mover, to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the contributions of our colleagues who have appreciated what this is about and the need for us as a parliament, and that is Senate, to have its voice in the BPS. Mr. Speaker, slowly by slowly, Senate is affirming its position on matters budget, much as over the years we have felt as if our participation and contribution has only been limited, Mr. Speaker, to the contributions on division of revenue and what we send to the counties. But over the years, it is increasingly becoming clear that especially on the sticky subject of the national debt, our voice is needed, our approval is important, our scrutiny needed more than ever before. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I hope that colleague senators will take the extra 7 days, Mr. Speaker, that we have granted to provide good value for the people of the Republic of Kenya. I thank all of them for contributing. Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply.
Honorable members, pursuant to Standing Order 84-1, I make a determination that this particular motion does not affect counties, and I proceed to put the question that, aware that the 2024 budget policy statement was tabled in the Senate on 15th of February 2024 for consideration pursuant to the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act, noting that the 14 days timeline for consideration of the budget policy statement lapses on Thursday, 29th of February 2024, concern that the magnitude of the work involved in the consideration of the budget policy statement is immense, and it involves consideration by all the standing committees, stakeholders' engagement, reporting by the standing committees to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, and consideration and approval of the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget by the Senate. Now, therefore, honorable members, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 186 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate resolves to extend the time for consideration of the 2024 budget policy statement by a further 7 days to enable the Senate make a determination by 7th of March 2024. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? Honorable members, the ayes have it. Honorable members, it is now 1 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, 21st of February 2024 at 2:30 p.m.